Season 1 of Chucky has come to a close, so let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your thoughts on Chucky. As this is a spoiler review, feel free to spoil away down below in the comment sections. And if you haven't seen the show yet, I'll do a non-spoiler review, kind of my quick take of the whole season in the first minute before I start talking about spoilers, so you don't have to click away just yet. Also, I have talked a little bit about this show before. I did a review of the premiere, and then I was on a one of Cody Leach's live streams where we discussed the show a couple weeks back. So talking about most of the season in detail for about an hour. You can check those out at these links right up here. And let's get started with my spoiler-free thoughts on the season as a whole. And the big phrase that comes to mind is uneven. Are there a bunch of fun Chucky-esque kills? Yeah. Are there some funny dark humor? Yes. Is it satisfying to see some of the returning faces? Yes, it is. Was I invested enough with the high schoolers, the family drama, some of that stuff? Yes. At the same time, did it strain a little bit, way too much credibility far too often? Yes, it did. Was the tone wildly uneven? Yes, it was. And I think that's just kind of what happens when you have a series like this that's a sequel to all of the previous movies in the original continuity, not the remake, but all the previous films in continuity. And that was over 25 years worth of movies that had very different tones at different points in time. And this is a sequel to all of them, so it's trying to capture all of it. In which case, scene to scene, it can be very, very uneven, very different, and it doesn't all mesh together all that well. And it seemed like the creator had a few too many things he wanted to be able to do with this show, and it felt like that. Someone just trying to throw everything in there rather than executing one or two things really, really well. And so while it was a show where each week I was like, I don't have cable or whatever to watch it, then I dropped, so I just bought it on Vudu. So every Wednesday I would watch it first thing, the new episode. Like I was interested enough that happened. I didn't wait a few weeks to play catch up on a couple episodes. I never thought about quitting. I wanted to watch the whole season. But each episode I'd be like, oh, that was cool. And then I'd be like, I am not so crazy about where this is going, what you're doing with this. And then tonally, I mean, it's just so all over the place. So very much a mixed bag for me. And I don't regret watching season 1, but I don't know if I'll watch season 2. Maybe I'll have to see the trailers and where they're exactly taking things to decide at that point in time. But I was very mixed on season number 1. So from there, let's kind of dive into the spoiler version of things. So if you haven't seen the show yet, go watch it, come back, you can hear my more specific takes on some things that I liked and didn't like about this show. So at its core, it's a continuation of where was it? It was Cult of Chucky was the last one where he sent his consciousness out and it was split and it was different places. That's basically the premise of the show, but it starts off more singular where we're just following one of those Chuckies, that this kind of troubled boy, because his home life is pretty wild. He's picked on at school and he's obsessed with dolls. Picks up a Chucky basically for this statue that he's working on. Only along the way we discover his dad is abusive and he's alcoholic. He's a jerk. He doesn't understand him. And he has a brother or twin, and they're about polar opposites in regards to how successful they've been. And apparently the father that's the brother here has always been less successful, and then his wife died and he just went over the rails and he just kind of lost it and is horrible to his son. And essentially Chucky tries to leverage that, use that as a mechanism to like get in with this troubled child, to get him to lash out at the world. And we don't know exactly why at the beginning. Later on we learn it's because he needs to get someone, an innocent, to kill someone in order for him to be able to create his army of Chuckies. And so that's what his master plan has been, is to find someone he can manipulate into killing someone. And so he's just trying to find each troubled person, to find some pressure point to leverage them to killing someone. At its core, I think that's a good setup for Chucky. Friend till the end, find someone that really needs a friend, find someone that no one understands, and then exploit their loneliness, be their friend, and twist them into something evil. That's a good setup for a Chucky series. And, from there, I think, some of the stuff with the bullying and the girlfriend that's just the absolute worst until she's not. Some of that's where the show started to feel uneven for me. It's because it's like she's a true monster. She dresses up as her boyfriend's dead uncle to make fun of a boy at school that's clearly bullied. He was mean to her once, and so she decides, I will dress up as his dead dad. That's like next level sick stuff to do. And she's for the first half of the season, she's unable to own her own cruelty and realize she can't learn and grow until someone tries to kill her. And then she has a swift change of thoughts. And then all of a sudden she's buddying up with the guy that she was being cruel with. And that's where some of the stuff, they made her too cruel without any redeeming qualities, and then gave her redeeming qualities in the back half, to where you're watching the last episode and the dynamic of these people being friends and buddies till the end. And you're like, these people hated each other not too long ago. You were truly, the reason he was pushed to the point that he wants to kill people because of how horrible she is. And he tried to kill her. I think there's a little bit, I never fully bought into the arc that they put there, because it was just too much. And then I kind of wish they'd done some different things with the parents, that some of that led somewhere different, paid off differently, where you have Junior ends up, just discovers his mom has cancer. They tease that she had some secret where she's calling someone late at night about it. So you assume she's having an affair, and then they reveal, no, it's cancer. Which we're watching a show that's all about death and a murderous doll killing people. It's a show that treats death very flippantly, and you can't really enjoy the show if you can't enjoy the flippantness of all the murders taking place. That's built into the show is yeah, a bunch of people keep getting murdered and killed, and we're being entertained by it. And stage 4 cancer is not that. Stage 4 cancer is real world. It's not a doll tricking people, electrocuting people and tripping them so they get impaled in their face with knives. It's just so cartoonishly over the top that you can buy into the flippantness of it because it's so cartoonish. It's, Looney Tunes, except with a murderous doll. Stage 4 cancer, we all know someone that has died of cancer. So it's so grounded that when you introduce real death into the mix, it adds a weight that's really heavy. So they give Junior's mom cancer. Then they convince Junior that she killed herself, though in fact it was Chucky, so that Junior then goes and kills his dad. And it just seemed like there was something more satisfying that we could have done with some of these parents, especially maybe they could have discovered something, learned, grow something, as opposed to they established kind of these complex parent dynamics between the parents with their kids, trying to understand, the uncle is trying to be real nice to Jake, trying to do the best that he can. It seems like all of that's going somewhere. Or I think that maybe he's going to learn something on how to connect with Junior, and it doesn't go anywhere. A bunch of these parents just get killed. Was it Devon's mom she's clearly skeptical of something, what's going on with the doll, and as soon as she shows up to maybe have an interesting revelation about it that would put a new dynamic in she's just pushed downstairs and dies. It seemed like there's something more you could have done with that. Once again, that's where the show's just mixed. A bunch of these kills are fun. They found a way to have plenty Chucky carnage taking place. And then they built arcs that just didn't seem like they went anywhere. We're spending a bunch of time on Junior's relationship with his dad and not really establishing Junior's dad is actually bad. He just has expectations that are unreasonable and he's not listening, which is a very normal thing for a dad to do. It's not a murderous offense. It's an opportunity for him to grow. And so they kind of did it to give a reason why would Junior do this. that's totally not like a motivation that you buy into as to why he would suddenly turn so dramatically and team up with a murderous doll. And that's where it kind of lost me a bit. Likewise, I talked about the tone being all over the place. I think it was a couple weeks back, the episode where it was the most prominent to me, where I believe it was all in one episode. We had the first kiss between Jake and Devon, stage 4 cancer reveal, and we spent a lot of time with Tiffany. And it would be like, it would literally go from Tiffany acting as over the top as she did in Seed of Chucky to like, let's have this romantic scene where two guys are looking at each other and everything's moving fast around them and they're in slow-mo, and then it cuts to a mom and revealing she has stage 4 cancer. And then it cuts back to Tiffany with Fiona Dourif acting as Chucky and not Nora, Nika's body. And like, these are very different tones that don't feel like they go together. And that's, I think, the difficulty of this show when you're trying to follow up all the different plot lines of all the different things and have Easter eggs from everything and having the tone of all of them, while also wanting to have a romance between two high schoolers while talking about high school bullying. And you just throw it kind of all in there. And we're referencing Glenda, and the tones just don't fit together. And it's very jarring when you jump from whatever Jennifer Tilly was doing in this show to slow-mo, emotional music, two dudes kissing. Like, the tone of this is very, very different. Then and we haven't even talked about, cut in between all this is a murderous doll cackling, swinging a knife around. And it just didn't feel cohesive in that regard. Whereas, the Child's Play original trilogy feels cohesive with that tone. And then The Bride of Chucky goes off in a very different direction. And it's more comical, and it felt cohesive in tone. Even Seed, as weird as it was, as much as it's by far my least favorite of the bunch, it committed to this full-blown self-parody, dark comedy approach to things. And then with Curse of Chucky goes in a very different direction. It picked a tone. And this one didn't pick a tone. It really went for all of it. And some of that didn't work so well. Let's talk specifically about the finale. And I was getting pretty nervous there if they actually killed off Andy. Marble mouth. Andy. If they actually killed him off like that, that wouldn't have been so great. But they didn't. It wasn't much better. That I'm forgetting the adopted sister's name, but if you bring someone back and you have them do some stuff, but their final contribution is being stupid and falling for a trap, it's not very satisfying. Like, brought her back after all these years. We teased her a little bit, but we actually brought her back. For that? Really? That's what you did with it? You want it to mean something. And so, like, had they actually killed off Andy with that bomb, I think it just would have been done, because, like, it's just too disrespectful, too ridiculous to bring him back kind of for the last several years and showed up in the movies a little bit and not have it mean anything when he actually dies. No, you kind of brought him back just to kill. No, don't do that. So I'm glad they didn't, and they actually gave meaning to what he did and used him as a cliffhanger, and he'll be a continuing part of the show. That's good. And I guess here's what bugged me about the way they handled the death with it. I don't think it's Tina is when the name is coming to mind. But what bothered me about it is, so they do that death, or the explosion implies that our two returning characters died, maybe Devon, and then they cut to the reaction of Jake learning that his friend has died. And they have sad music playing as he's reading, and it can't be him, and he's just sitting there in sadness. So we see his reaction to someone dying that didn't die. But we spend no time on the character that did. That's when you have like a death that feels disrespectful. And that's where if Andy had died and it was like he died and we just went and moved on and we mourned the character that didn't die, that doesn't work so well. And it's also, I mean, kind of one of the problems with this show of having such a high body count of characters that you introduce, spend time with, and then you kill the parent off, is that all these people have died, and the show doesn't really pause to have that death have weight, because if it did, the show would be pretty unpleasant to watch. So it kind of glosses over some of these ones, and it does that continually. So when it pauses to be like, Devon died. But he didn't! Like, I guess it's kind of nice to like, yeah, he's alive. We can continue on with the two of them. But we didn't pause for all these characters that did die, really. We didn't really mourn a lot of those losses. So I don't know. It was just a real mixed bag. I think the trailer for the next season might need to win me over to it. Because it was like I enjoyed watching it. I had fun with individual episodes, but I always had kind of like, really, this is what we're doing? Well, we're getting real cartoonish in these flashbacks. I'm not buying into this lady is Tiffany in the past, and there's just a lot of things like that just pulled me out of it as I was watching. So that's frustrating. So like the whole show, I'd put it in the mixed category for me. There's a lot of good, a lot of bad. Even with the things that I liked about it, there was something about it that I didn't like, and the stuff that annoyed me, there's some creative idea there that was kind of interesting. That's where I'm at on it. Where did you guys fall on the Chucky show? Did you like it? Was it too far? Was it exactly what you wanted? Or was it where you kind of like me, you're pretty mixed on it? Or you're more mixed positive or mixed negative? I think I'm right on the line. I am 50-50 on this show. No regrets as to watching it. Never thought about not finishing it. But I'm also not sure if I'll watch season 2. So right on the line for me is where I'm at with this one. Let me know what you thought down below. Check out my Chucky ranking right over there, and keep talking movies and TV too much.